Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio, and our guest today is Georgia Phillips. We recorded this episode live at the Esomar Congress, and I invited Georgia because she was doing a presentation where she explores the powerful role that advertising can play in driving inclusion and social impact. And so we can talk more about this whole concept of advertising for good. On the conversation, we also talked a bit about her work on making advertising more representative of people with disabilities, both visible and non-visible ones. We dive into the inspiration behind the movement, including the story of Dylan Alcott, and how advertising can normalize disability, create connection, and even unlock untapped markets. It's a very important conversation. It's a very important topic that should be more discussed and should be more on top of mind when creating these conferences and these events, but also when creating research. I hope it sparks some creativity and makes you think in a more inclusive way. Here's Georgia. I want to talk about the normalized disability, because basically when I was going through the program, I was trying to select interesting papers, and yours kind of like, it's not a topic that we talk every day in these conferences. I think it's something very important to talk about, and I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's you're right, and that's part of why we're presenting. So it actually started from me being inspired attending another conference. So I was attending a big marketing conference in Australia, and I heard a guy talk, and he talked about how when he was a baby, he was born with a tumor wrapped around his spinal cord.
Okay.
And in the first weeks of his life, he had to have surgery, and the surgery worked in that it removed the tumor, but in doing so, it snipped his spinal cord and he ended up paralyzed from the waist down. So he grew up in a wheelchair, always feeling like trying to keep up with his older big brother who was able-bodied, and talked about how he, really struggled living with disability because he was teased and then he couldn't keep up with the other kids. And, in Australia, it's a very sporty country. Everyone's outside surfing and skateboarding and playing sport all the time. And he was sort of stuck inside and feeling like there was nothing for him to do. And certainly the world around him also reinforced that. So advertising and TV programs, rarely could he see anybody with disabilities like him. So he could never feel like he would grow up and go to uni or get a job in a bank or, play sport or live a normal life. He felt like he would be a burden all his life to his family and have to be stuck at home. And so anyway, lucky for him, he had great parents because he became quite suicidal when he was a teenager, worrying about, well, what's going to happen to me? I'm a loser. And so terrible, because we just he never saw anyone like him. So he didn't see it, couldn't be it. So lucky for him, he had great parents who kind of got him G'd up and got him playing sport.
Yeah.
And he played basketball, and then he got into wheelchair tennis. And then he actually went on to win 23 Grand Slam tournaments, both singles and doubles, and 2 gold Olympic medals in the disability games. Anyway, he's quite a famous Australian. He's called Dylan Alcott, and he went on to become Australian of the Year. And so when he was Australian of the Year, it became his mission to help try and normalise disability, because he could see how by building accessibility, but also normalising disability, meant people who are living with disability could see themselves in the community and feel like they could achieve anything. And so a big part of that was looking at the advertising industry, because advertising is all around us, where, every day there's like some 10,000 hits from media ads, etc. And so he thought it was a great place to start to try and influence advertisers to be more inclusive with people with disability in their ads. So I heard him talk about this and I got goosebumps and tears in my eyes, thinking, wow, this is terrible. Like, why are we so
mean?
Why is it we projecting this shiny, perfect world view? Like, why aren't we more inclusive? And the statistic is that worldwide, through the World Health Organization, 20% of the world's population has some form of disability, either visible or non-visible disability, but less than 1% of ads show people with disability. So anyway, when Dylan was Australian of the Year, he set about trying to make a change, and he partnered with an advertising agency and some big clients in Australia, big advertisers, and they took their ads that were already on air. They re-edited the ad to replace one of the characters in the ad to include a person with disability. Sometimes it was a main character, sometimes it was a minor character. And then they re-aired the ad, and it was a big kind of signal to the advertising world to say, look, this is possible. Why aren't we all doing this? Because, brands choose not to do it, whether it's through ignorance and just, feeling like that it's not even top of mind for them, or whether it's because they're worried that people with disability might not suit the ad. They're worried about being insensitive or being tokenistic and all of these elements.
Yeah.
So he did this big kind of experiment, and then I heard about it at the conference, and I had tears, as I said, in my eyes. I wanted to be involved. I was like, what can I do? I felt like I can't do anything. And then I realized, hang on, I work in research. We have power. Data is power these days. All of these clients that we work with, they need evidence to show that things work. So that's how it came about. I approached them and said, can we do some pro bono research to help you build up evidence so that you can then show your clients that there's nothing to worry about? And so we did. And so we did a big research project, and we tested all of these ads and different levels of inclusiveness. And that's what we found, basically, that two major findings. One is that for people who don't have disability, they didn't even really notice the people with disability in the ad. And so there was no difference between the version of the ad with disability and the version without. Exactly the same. So it was the funny ads were just as funny with the person with disability in it. The warm ads were just as warm. The boring ads were just as boring. It really made no difference. But for the people who do have disability, it made a difference. They noticed. Yeah. And they felt more positive about the brands that were inclusive and more likely to actually consider buying those brands as well. So there's a positive commercial outtake too, because people with disability, as we said, is 20% of the target audience, like $1 trillion of spend each year. These people with disabilities, they're going on holidays, they're buying cars, having bank accounts.
They're persons at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, they're consumers. So why would brands ignore such a large proportion of their target audience?
Do you feel like it's almost, and I'm going to say niche market, but I know that it's not really a niche market, but do you feel like brands are not looking into this, I don't want to call it niche market, but you get it? Because if there's so many people that don't have products designed for them, or that they can see themselves using them or, consuming them, do you feel like there's like this market that's
untapped? Absolutely. People they're not thinking about it. They're not aware of it. They're not designing products for people with disability, but even ones that don't need a special change, like even banks, they're just not reflecting people within the community. And we know from all the work that we've done is that, relevancy is a massive impact in terms of the way people respond to an ad. And so if you don't feel the ad's relevant to you, if you can't see yourself either directly or in an aspirational way.
And you also create a connection, right? Like if you see yourself in the ad, in that brand, you kind of have a better connection with the brand, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that you mentioned is there's physical disabilities, but there's also the non-visible disabilities.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to showcase those types of people and types of disability in the ads?
Yeah, it can be harder because it's obviously less, obvious to the viewer that person has a disability, but that doesn't necessarily matter because what we're saying is it's not about being tokenistic. It's not about just always putting someone in a wheelchair. It's just being inclusive and having this authentic representation of people with disability. And actually through this research, I've been talking with people in the disability community, and they tend to know if you're a loved one of a person with autism or you have autism, you can generally detect other people with autism. And there are also clues that advertisers can use to help signal that it's a person with maybe autism. So, for example, there's an internationally recognized lanyard that has sunflowers on it. So for people that are needing a little bit of extra time or sensitive to sounds, they usually wear that lanyard, or they'll be perhaps wearing headphones because it's trying to block out some of the noises that might be impacting them. So there are certainly ways that you can clue that disability in the ads, but it's also just, even if it's a person without a visible disability, why can't we include them anyway, just from a casting perspective? Exactly. Even if others don't pick up on it.
Yeah, exactly. The lanyard is an interesting thing. I discovered that quite recently. I was in a plane and someone pointed my attention, like, this person is like this, it has this disability. And then told me the whole story about the lanyard. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated with it. I think it's such an interesting way, but at the same time, it's really interesting and really sad that no one kind of knows what it means. Do you think that, and this is probably more on the government side and the school system size, but you think we should find a better way to promote these things in educational level and the politicians level?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how high up we have to go, but definitely from an educational point of view, in terms of just making people aware of it. And I think because if you do have some sorts of sensitivity, you don't want to always ask people asking you, why are you wearing that around your neck either? But then it's a way of informing through the community to make people aware of it, which a lot of people don't know.
At the end of the day, you don't want to, it's not to advertise that you're this or that or whatever it is. It's just a way that's sometimes it's a way for you to not be, bothered with something.
That's right. And I think just to be more accepting. I mean, we should all be more accepting of people's differences anyway and not judge. But, if you see that lanyard, you kind of feel like, okay, just give them some space.
Well, Georgia, thank you so much for the conversation. I could literally talk with this for hours and with you about this topic. I think it's, as I said in the beginning, I think it's one of those topics that we don't see very often in these conferences.
Yeah.
And there's, 13,000 people here. Like, I'm pretty sure there's someone that's struggling in some kind of way. And I feel like at SMR, we're trying to find ways to make it the easiest and the best for everyone. But I know that sometimes we don't have the tools for it. And sometimes it gets tricky when it's so many people and to make everyone feel comfortable in these types of settings, because I know it's a lot of people.
Yeah. So good just to have the conversation.
It is good to have a conversation. I think that's the very first thing that we should do. It's start there, have the conversation, and then we build the solutions from it. So thanks very much for your time. And thanks very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's all for today, folks. Talking Insights is a production of Research World and SMR, bringing you the stories, voices, and ideas shaping the Insights community around the world. If you'd like to be featured in a future episodes, share your story, or learn more about sponsoring opportunities, send us an email at podcast@smr.org. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And join us next week for another great conversation. See ya.